you either. So there you go. Good evening. This is Tuesday, June the 6th, my brother's birthday. And this is the regular monthly meeting of the Park Acquisition Corporation from Marin Valley Mobile Country Club. I'd like to begin with a call for approval of the final agenda. Carol Joy.
So moved.
John Hanson.
Yes, I would like to propose an amendment to the agenda. Where it would fit in and exactly how, I don't know, but what I have in mind is to discuss the possibility of and perhaps even vote on a vote of no confidence for city management.
Maybe that should be under new business, John.
Could be, I don't know, but it's not on the agenda. So that's why I'm
no, that's what I mean. In other words, putting it as a topic under new business.
Okay, new business.
Okay, Carol Joy, you have a comment?
Point of order, we cannot do that. We cannot vote on something that was not already on the agenda that went out 72 hours in advance. We can't. Oh, and there it is in the chat. You cannot.
Yes, that's
that.
what I expected, is that
Yeah.
we would not be able to vote on it, but we can discuss it. We just can't vote on it.
Okay, so let's put that under new business.
Okay.
Any objections among board members? Carol Joy?
I second John's motion to amend the agenda.
Okay, any comment from the rest of the board? Seeing none, Bill Davis from the residents has a comment. Unmute yourself, Bill. Bill, you're on mute.
There we go. You can discuss this, but I don't know if this is the right place to discuss it, A. And B, it needs to be agendized if you're going to do it. And C, it really is an informational item and it should probably belong in public comment. Done. Thank you.
Well, let's leave it on the agenda for new business and we can discuss the ins and outs of it. And we're not going to vote on it, and maybe we'll decide where in any future agenda that might be appropriate. So can I call for approval of the agenda with that addition? All in favor? John? Steve, are you voting? Okay, so 5-0. Okay, moving on to items not necessarily on the agenda. 3-minute limit for all comments throughout the meeting. Carol Joy.
I want to report that I am in contact with the people at Community Media Center of Marin, which is in San Rafael. They know that the Novato community access television station was closed down, and I have asked that they consider broadcasting our monthly meeting. It is in their hands right now, but it's been a kind of a convoluted process, and so I don't have an answer yet, but I'm trying to get some movement on there being a possibility of our meetings being broadcast. I have told them that it's a senior low-income mobile home park and that there are people who cannot, or who are not capable of Zooming for one reason or another, and who were dependent on watching the meetings on TV.
Thank you for that, and keep us updated.
I will.
Another public comment not on the agenda? Seeing none, let's move on to the consent calendar.
My hand is raised. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I'm on too.
I'm sorry, is this, who's this speaking?
Well,
33,
Ellen Jane came on, and 3350 is me, Connie Marelich.
Okay, so Connie Merrill, you go ahead.
I was most upset at the election of officers on the new board. You guys have got to shake it up, and you've got to do something about term limits. Got to start sharing more thoughts and quit becoming stagnant. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Any other public comment?
Ellen Jane,
Ellen Jane, go ahead,
Yeah.
Ellen Jane.
thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll preface this. I'm in a little bit of pain, so it's hard to talk. And I have a comment about the minutes. First, did we get minutes of the 5-2 meeting? I couldn't find them, but might be my state of mind. Did you send out meeting minutes from May 2nd, Carol Joy? Or
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Draft. And as you see on the agenda, it's approved minutes of May 2nd meeting is on there. So if your comment is about that, you have to wait until
Well,
you're on that.
okay, well, I think oh gosh. I think my comment was on the 5/16 minutes, but I thought I had to bring it up in public comments. It was like a correction addition to,
No, no,
Did I say-
we'll cover that when we're talking about the consent calendar.
The
Any other
consent
public comment?
not the minutes, the consent calendar? I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that in the consent calendar. If you have any comments about either the May 2nd or the 16th, that would be the time to do it.
All right, will do. Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to the consent calendar for approval of the May 2nd PAC monthly meeting. Is there any addition or comments on that? John Hanson.
Yeah, Jay, I think we need to get it on the table with a motion and a second and then discussion. And I move to approve the minutes from May 2.
A second?
I second it.
Thank you. Okay, any comment from the board about the minutes on the May 2nd?
Yes.
Go ahead, Carol.
Carol Joy, thank you. I have a couple of corrections. Both of them are probably my fault when I was editing the recording secretary's wonderful minutes. One of them is on page 3. And in the last paragraph, it says, it starts with Ellen Jane expressed in favor of paying off the loan, and Steve said we would save around $150,000 in annual interest if we were to do so. I'm so sorry, I misconstrued his comment. It should say, and Steve said we would save around $150,000 if we were to do so. So I would like that change. So it should, yeah, just leave out the words in annual interest. The second correction is on page 5 in the last paragraph. Again, my fault. That is the paragraph that begins, as for the goats or other clearing, nothing is firm, but there is a general. Several years ago, the Greater Novato Shaded Fuel Break was originally conceived. They were looking at MVMCC being on the tail end of that. John stated that Bill Davis had a lot to do with that. It should say, John, and John, correct me if I'm wrong. John stated that Bill Davis had a lot to do with MVMCC not being on the tail end of that. Correct? Okay.
Any other corrections? Okay, can we vote to accept the minutes of the May 2nd meeting?
So I move to amend the motion to include those corrections.
Seconded by John Hanson. Okay, again, call for vote. All those in favor of accepting?
All right,
Oh,
Five,
oops, there was just something in the chat from Michelle Rodriguez. I don't know if you saw that, Jay.
no, I didn't. Michelle,
says-
would you like to say something?
It says-
You referred the public to wait until you took this item on before they could comment on it. So you need to open the item up now for the public comment before you approve it or with your amendments.
Quite true. Is there any comment from the residents or the viewing public about the minutes of the May 2nd meeting? Before we approve it. I see Anila waving her hands. Did you have any comment? No, okay. Seeing none. Can I call for a vote again for acceptance of the May 2nd meeting? 5-0. Okay, the second item is for the approval of the May 16th, 2028 meeting workshop. Can I
I
have a
move to,
motion? Please, Cal Joy.
I move to approve.
I have a second.
a second.
Second by John Hanson. Discussion from members of the board. Seeing none. Any discussion from the residents or the viewing audience? Can
Ellen
I call
Jane,
for, go
Ellen
ahead.
Jane has her hand up.
Oh, okay. Ellen Jane.
Thank you, Carol Joy. Yeah, again, as I emailed to you, thank you so much for all this imbroglio being on top of things with the city. And I wanted to, I think I got the right minutes. I'm on an iPad. I'm sorry, I can't switch back and forth to screens, but I think it's the May 16th minutes where on page 6, Jay gave background about the management company and mentioned the Helsing Group, but he forgot about the original management company was Al Fry, F-R-E-I, who came on after the delegation agreement in 1997 or 1998. And then when he retired 10 years ago, Matt came on, and hopefully Matt can clarify, because then after Matt had been with us, the Helsing Group was hired. Matt didn't start with the Helsing Group, and maybe someone can clarify that, but what was in the minutes about the Helsing, we were hired the Helsing Group, that's not exactly accurate.
John
Thank you.
Hanson. You're muted, John.
Unmute. Okay. Anyway, I think that's what you stated. And I don't think we can make a correction, even though we can't add information to the minutes. What you said is what the minutes are. But what Ellen Jane said can be added from, as a correction for the minutes for, can be added in this as a statement in these minutes. Is that right? Yeah.
Well, if somebody could clarify that what I'm saying is correct, like if Matt can clarify, Helsing Group was not hired when Matt was hired. Matt came first. Al Fry came first. He left, he retired. Matt came on some way, and then Helsing Group came on.
Okay, thank you. Let me clarify. When Al Fry was manager, we convinced him to hire a on-board manager, and Matt was hired approximately 10 years ago. I don't have the exact date. He continued on as manager, and when Al Fry retired, about, again, not exact dates, around 4 or 5 years ago, the Helsing Group took over his business and took over the managerial services for the park, and Matt continued on.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear.
Okay, any other comments? Bill, I see is your hand up?
Yes, that's just a minor adjustment to the meeting minutes, and then just make the adjustment, approve the adjustment, take a vote, and let's move on.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the minutes for the May 16th with the various comments that helped clarify it? A motion?
Okay, but excuse me,
Yeah, go ahead, Carol. Joy.
clarification, we are approving the minutes as they stand. That's what we're voting on. It's just that there have been comments to further to the minutes, but we're approving these minutes. And so these minutes of the May 16th meeting. So in tonight's meeting, the minutes will reflect that there is further clarification or information.
That works for me.
Yeah.
Again, Bill Davis.
That's fine. It's a minor adjustment. Do it however you're going to do it. Thank you.
Okay, can I call for a vote on the minutes of the acceptance of the May 16th minutes with comments? Again, 5-0. Thank you. I'd like to call on under reports Matt Greenberg for a report on maintenance and capital projects, including information on water, energy, street, and parking lighting. Matt?
Good evening. Matt Greenberg, General Manager. I don't have any report on maintenance and capital projects except for the ongoing sewer maintenance that we're doing. But we are approaching a new and approved budget on the 27th, and we've been directed not to do any work until we do have a new budget starting July 1st. As far as water usage, looks like we've averaged about 30,000 gallons a day. The last read was taken May 16th. 1 year ago at the same time, the average was 39,874 gallons a day. It could be contributed to some leaks or warmer weather. Out front, as everybody's very well aware of, at least 45 spaces of the 90 that we have are closed for the under construction. Looks like that they have the new sewer in the ground, the pipe in the ground, and they've been compacting. They haven't done any asphalt or concrete work yet. And I think they're still a ways off. But we have several residents that are parking in the guest parking and have to walk quite a ways. And they've come up and asked, is there a timeline? Which we don't know. I think initially they gave us a 5-month timeline for the whole project. The gas usage in the park went down by at least 2/3. And the electric usage in the park is very similar to last period, a little lower, about 3,375 kWh a day for the whole park, which includes the care recipients. There's any other specifics that you would like me to talk about, I'm happy to, but that really is the whole of my report.
Carol Joy Harris.
I'm sorry, Matt, the last thing you said which includes the care recipients?
Oh yeah, I'm just reading our current bill, and the usage includes the California alternative rate for energy recipients, which are residents in the park that fall under a certain income guideline, and they receive between 20 and 30% as a reduced bill each month, which is really good. And we have plenty of applications up in the office. I'm happy to help anybody apply for that program, where it can be gas and electric, as well as medical baseline if you use any medical equipment. Please
So-
come up.
So just, that doesn't cost the park any more money. It's just that PG&E eats the rest of that.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions from the board to Matt? Questions from the residents or viewers? Carol Joy?
I'm sorry, one more question.
Sure.
The agenda also says, and street and parking lighting. That's kind of a holdover, but is there any change on that?
We've added some low voltage lighting around the front of the walkways. It seems like there's always trouble with the lighting and people needing more lighting around the holidays in the wintertime. But it's lighter a little later in the evening now. And I think it's pretty good. I'd like to add more, but we need to have an approval to spend some money before we can do so. Hopefully we get July 1st.
It's Carol Joy Harris.
I'm sorry, one more
Sure.
thing. Thank you very much for the new flag. The other one was tattered, and so
Yes.
thank you for that. I appreciate that. And also the new street signs. I mean, you couldn't even read View Ridge, and all the signage that's new. Very, very nice. Thank you.
And just to let you know, Tom Nadolski takes the flags down and properly disposes of them through an organization, so they're not just tossed when we're done.
Yes.
Laura, can you hold on for 1 second? Michelle Rodriguez has had her hand up for a while.
There was, thank you, Matt, for that.
Sure.
There was something that he said that was really important, and that was on June the 27th, the city of Novato is going to adopt our budget. So it'll be important the Friday before for different people who live in the park to get that agenda item and to review the budget to make sure that it's aligned with what we've been seeing here, and to comment on it as you see appropriate. In other words, be in support of it, since we've already been looking at it here. So thank you for mentioning it, Matt.
You bet. You know, as well as there is a planned city meeting at the clubhouse on June 19th, which includes the PAC board and the city to discuss the budget. And we've been instructed to set up for a large amount of people, the capacity, and the long meeting. So we'll notice all the residents, and that'll also be a good time to weigh in. You'll have, I believe, 3 minutes per person that would, you know, any comments that you would like to make. And I also think that the city has been asked, since it's more of a work session, to change the time limit for people commenting so they could have a little bit more time. But I have not personally gotten a response yet whether they're going to do that.
Okay, John Hanson, I'll go back to you. One more time, you gotta unmute yourself.
Yeah, I mentioned it before, but I'd like to mention here now that I would really like to request of the city that this be a joint city council PAC meeting rather than a PAC meeting, or rather than a city council meeting, but a joint meeting, so that we have a round table where we can sit and discuss the whole thing without you know, specific 2 or 3 minute time limits on what we have to present. There's a lot of discussion that needs to take place, and we need it just needs to be facilitated.
Thank you, John.
I wanted to add one quick item. I just got a couple of chat messages. The ballroom has been reserved from 2 to 6. So I believe that the meeting starts at 2 o'clock, but I'll be properly noticing everybody and as well as putting out a robocall for the exact time. And if it changes, I'll let you know as well.
I,
Okay. Cal Joy Harris.
I'm fairly sure that the reason they want the clubhouse reserved earlier than the meeting is actually starting is so that they can set up all the equipment for their for it to be a hybrid meeting where people can zoom in. So I have a feeling that it's not going to start at 2, but I'm not positive.
Okay, you could be right there. I'll make sure that I follow through it and get the right time.
Okay, I'd like to recognize Laura.
Hi, this is from Matt. I'm getting concerned about are we going to be having some weed whacking before the goats come? Are these areas where it's getting almost really a very large fire hazard? Of course, we did have some rain today, which wasn't expected, but I'm noticing, especially on the hill above me and areas of fallen leaf where there's just a whole hillside of it needs to be dealt with. I'm just wondering what the schedule is about that.
We asked if we could start now and we were denied access, and they said, the city public works said that we have to wait till we have our budget approved and we cannot start any work until July 1st.
Well, if we have a fire, that's going to make problems, won't it? Anyway, okay.
Okay, I see John Ewing has his hand raised. John?
Good evening, everybody. Firstly, I'd like to commend Carol Joy for bringing up the fact that more visual opportunities for most of the residents here that don't have the opportunity for the high technology are able to know what's going on, basically. And then, Matt, with the meeting that you have coming up, I'd even volunteer to walk around and put messages through paper, as funky as it is, so that more and more people can get involved with all our conversations. I think there's a lot of folks that I'm sure aren't aware of what's going on, and maybe with some enthusiasm, which I'm willing to volunteer, we could get more people in the park involved. So we also have a lot more power when dealing with the city. That's my little comment. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I also now recognize Ellen. Unmute yourself, Ellen.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, regarding Matt's report, thank you, Matt. That's kind of unbelievable that the gas usage went down 2/3. And this is a matter of consternation, both for myself and for the other people who don't want to hear me talk about it. But I'm not in the clubhouse every day, but I was there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the air conditioner was going. It's set at 72. And one of those evenings, it was 9:30 at night. It was quite cool out. And the air conditioner was actually running to cool it down further. It's set on 72, which the PG&E guidelines are, it's either 76 or 78 to have the, and I do wonder whether it's left all evening, whether it's been programmed properly, if there's any way, you're not here, Matt, so I don't know if you can check on it, or whether it actually goes off at night or down a few degrees. But I've spoken with the twins. I try to maintain a relationship with them, but they just sort of chuckle about it. And yeah, so I don't know. If you say the gas is down 2/3, well, that's really good news. But I don't know if you can respond to me or not. If there's if it shouldn't be running at 72 degrees when it's colder than that outside. And sometimes the doors are open, late at night, and I'll close the doors. Sometimes the louvered windows are open and I close them up. But I don't know who's in charge. That's my
Well,
That's
all
fine.
we can really do is set the temperature on those, unless we bought new programmable, a different type of programmable thermostat, but it's a constant back and forth. There's and bridge and cards during the week that want it cooler, and there are people concerned that it's running and all the doors are closed, but it's stuffy inside. So yeah, you know, we could raise the temperature and it would be a little bit warmer inside. And then there'll be other people that'll ask if you could lower the temperature. So whatever you guys want to do, if the PAC board says that they want it at a specific temperature, I'm happy to change it.
Carol Joy Harris.
My question is, can't you override it? So like when the ladies come in to play bridge, if it's too warm, can't they lower the temperature in that particular room?
We put lock boxes over all the thermostats because they get turned on to different temperatures and left.
Right.
They're easily opened and we can change it at any time.
I'm sorry, so you can change it during the day? I mean, they're programmable now, right? But
You can change them anytime. We can just open the box and change the temperature.
oh, you have to be there.
Or yeah. You can't do it digitally through your phone or an app, but you can do it the old fashioned way where you just turn it down and turn it up.
All right, well, it just doesn't make sense to me when it's cold outside that the air conditioning is running.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. I see no other comments, so let's move on to receive the,
Vanilla?
who?
Anila,
Oh, Neela, hi. Anila Manning.
Okay. Hi. Since the goats are on a grant and they're not dependent on a city budget, when do we know if the goats are coming?
Exactly.
The latest word is third week of this month. We should have goats starting the perimeter, and they won't be directly up against resident fences, but there'll be a 5 or a 10 foot area that will need to come through and manually cut when they're finished or during the time that they're there. If that overlaps, they should be here for 3 weeks, I would think.
Thank you.
Okay. So now let's move on to receive the PAC Treasurer's Report. Steve Flosher.
Okay, the PAC bank account is still right around $2,000, $2,073.94. We hardly ever spend any money. The PAC annual budget in the park budget, out of 4,000, we've spent 2,389. It always is, we have less spending when we don't have to have an election. Now for the finance report, the PSCR for through April, 10 months, is about 1.56. That's nowhere near 2.0. But in our meeting with the city last week, the city staff said they had some plan to manage things to get it down to 2.0 by the end of the fiscal year. We didn't discuss any of what those plans might be. That's up to them. So that's all I can say about that.
Okay, in that meeting, we did discuss with the city various accounts to lower the amount available for Matt to continue to use up until a certain point. And in that meeting, he managed to get it down to or up to a 2.1,
Yes,
correct?
yes. For
So
the coming year. Mhm.
for the coming year. So the the coming year budget was amended to bring it into that 2.1 level. And the thought was that with the amendments that they had made, that we were going to come in close to 2.0 for this current year, correct?
They did not disclose how they were going to get it up to 2.0. They just said that they were planning on expecting that, given the last 2 months of the year. So maybe stopping spending all money is going to accomplish that.
Right.
I have no special knowledge about that.
Right. I put an addendum onto today's agenda concerning our meeting with the city. And do you think I should read this at this point for those people who haven't received it?
The agenda item? Or
Carol Joy Harris?
I don't think so. Everyone on this call should have received the agenda and the addendum, and it's one whole page, single spaced. I do think it would be appropriate for you to summarize, if you could.
Yeah. We had a member of the finance group for the city there, and they had amended just before the meeting the amount of money that they had neglected to charge us over the past 5 years. And the amended amount of money that they had not charged us for administrative fees, rent control, in lieu of taxes fees amounted to $457,198.23. Additionally to that, we received an email yesterday from the city saying that, oops, we also forgot to include some money for insurance for both Marvell and for the club, which amounts to roughly $170,000. Now, those additional amounts were not really clear whether they are in addition to the monies already charged, or whether this is an addendum to inclusiveness of the money that they had already taken out with additional funds. So we are obviously looking for clarification for that in a more itemized form. So as it stands now, it looks like nearly more than $700,000 is going to be taken out of reserves for items that over the past 5 years, they haven't managed to detail to us in the current year. So these are what they call prior period adjustments to the fees that they either paid out for us or charging us for their services. Additionally, in that, when we were looking at during this meeting, because again, this member of the finance group was present, I asked, why did the balance sheet or the statement, audited statement, show that our interest income was $4,000 for last year and projected to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 40, I think it was 47,000 for the coming year. And when I asked them where are our $5 million in reserves held, I was told that they are in the Umpqua Bank in Novato in a non-deposit, I mean, a deposit, but non-interest bearing account. So again, we certainly would like to find clarification. And just additional comments on my side, the go to reserve investment funds normally are put in treasury bills, and treasury bills are a very liquid source of funds so that cities can obtain money very quickly. And starting last July, because of their interest in fighting inflation, they started to push up interest rates so that the interest rates started going up from 2 to 3% until today. They are over 5% for a 90-day treasury bill. So that over the course of the last year, it would, I would assume that the last 4 or 5 months, if they had placed our funds in treasury bills, we would have gained more than $4,000 in interest income, and that the projected interest income, even for the first quarter of next year, would be in excess of $40,000, because 5% of $5 million is $250,000 spread out over 4 quarters. It's certainly going to be more than 45,000 each quarter. So I certainly would like to get answers to those questions, but I wanted to put these on the table so that residents would know where things stand. Is there any comment from board members? Carol Joy Harris.
Did the finance department representative you were meeting with give you any reason that our reserves are in a non-interest bearing account? Because it could be, I'm just playing devil's advocate, but it could be that there is some stricture on the certain kind of, because we're an enterprise fund or whatever, or because of our loan, or, I mean, did they give any possible reason why it's in a non-interest bearing account? They
No.
get interest on
No.
their accounts, right?
No.
None. Wow. Well, may I comment that with Steve Ploker being on the 2x2 in the future, and we're not there on the agenda yet, but finance person to finance person, he may be able to get a better answer on that in the future.
Well, Steve was in this meeting on May 30th.
Yeah.
We were focusing on much bigger issues.
Okay. Is there any other comment from the board? I'll get to you, Laurel. I see it. Gary Appleman has had his hand raised. Unmute yourself, Gary.
I just unmuted. It's so interesting, Jay. I just wrote a letter, which is going out tomorrow, which is a request under the California Public Records Act. Specifically, these kind of questions you just raised. One is, I point out that as of last week, 1 month T-bill, the most secure possible investment, the most liquid investment possible, is paying 4.25. I'm sorry, 5.25. And in a year, that would have given us $258,500 in interest. By the way, Patelco in Marin, right here in Nevada, also Nevada Bank, is paying 4%, no minimum balance, no time frame on having your money there. That would have given us over $200,000 in interest instead of the $4,000 we have. So one is, I've asked them, how did the city manage the parks $5 million to earn only $4,000 in interest in a year? Does the city keep the parks funds in bank accounts that pay little to no interest? And if so, why? These are questions you just raised very well, by the way, Jay. Doesn't the city have a fiduciary duty to wisely and prudently invest the parks funds in accounts that earn the highest interest possible, if not why. And then I asked for very, very specific. There's a list of questions, but then I go on to ask for very, very specific information. I don't know why the board, and all the time I've lived here, hasn't asked for any of these. We want statements. What are the statements? What bank account is this money in? Where is it? We want to see monthly statements. How do we know this money even exists? It's just a printout. We have never seen a bank statement. The name of the bank, the interest rate each was earning, the current names of the city employees responsible for investing this money, and the procedures adopted by the city to guide in investing in park funds and or funds held on behalf of the park. And also, we have $5 million. The way I understand it, what Jay just said is sitting in Umpqua Bank. Is that what you said, Jay?
Yep.
Okay. FDIC has a $250,000 maximum insurance on that account. We have $5 million. What is that? 20 times the amount that's insurable? Ask the people, ask those corporations down in Silicon Valley Bank how much they sweated when that under. And the government bailed them out, but not necessarily will they bail us out. So it appears that the city has us no interest, or actually I did the math, it's 0.01%. And if you look at Umpqua Bank, their website, it shows a regular passport book account pays 0.01%. That's what gets us $4,000. In addition, I'm just wondering, Steve, so the city just says, oh, we forgot to bill you for $700,000. Now, we get in the financials, we get the budget, the monthly budget that will show, like, we're 2 months into it, into the year. So this is how much money we should have spent so far on that budget line. 6 months, we get that. 8 months, 10 months, each month we get it. And at the end, it should all be 100% and we're in budget. Now, when we get that budget report, doesn't it show, say the city's gonna take out $40,000 for their fee? Doesn't show quarterly, let's just go to quarter. At the end of the first quarter, that budget should show an actual, it should show proposed $10,000, but it should show an actual amount that they withdrew for that money.
Gary,
For that money.
Gary, let me ask Steve to respond to that.
Yes,
What's the question? That yes, they show budget and actual all the time.
right. So isn't the actual, if we look at last year's budget, it should show that they've already withdrew $40,000, their administrative fee, that now they claim they didn't charge us.
Gary, again, let me just jump in with the help of Steve Plosher.
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, according to my understanding, and Stephen can correct me, that in terms of the DSCR, the city is only allowed to use 25,000 or whatever the figure is in the calculation of the current year budget, but that any additional monies that they have used, expended, produced a bill for will be directly taken out of our reserves and therefore doesn't really show up until the end of the year under monies taken from our reserves, but it doesn't affect the yearly budget. Is that correct?
I understand that. So I used the wrong example.
Wait,
Okay.
let Stefan answer.
That's not correct. The limitation on the DSCR calculation is simply that. It's a calculation with rules. It has nothing to do with the magnitude of any item that we can actually spend money on, okay? We can spend money as much as we want or as doable on any line item, but when you go to calculate the DSCR, there are rules about what you have to kick out and what you can include. And that's for the calculation of the DSCR. Now, when it comes to the owner expense, the fees that the city takes for their administrative costs, that item is limited to 25,000 a year. It doesn't mean they cannot spend more. It means that when we do the DSCR calculation, if they've taken out 300,000, we can only allow 25,000 in the calculation of the DSCR.
Okay, I used the wrong example, I think. So Jay just said that they forgot to charge us for rent control supervision. Well, that's a budget item. I think it's $18,000. I'm just happen to
Okay.
right, it's something like that. So when we get the budget, when we get their actuals, it shows that they've withdrawn $18,000. They paid themselves $18,000. So how can they now come back years later and say, oh, we didn't?
Well, sometimes those items don't say 18,000, they say 0 for a couple of years, and then they'll take out 54,000 3 years down the road.
So we've been all along, when we've gotten the budget, it said 0 and nobody said to the city, how come this category is 0 at the end?
That sometimes happens with categories
Okay.
with the city.
Okay, I didn't realize, I figured, well, anyway, I've asked for, in my records request, an accounting of the money that they claim owes. And I've asked them,
Another clarification for you, Gary. Usually those figures, those actuals, are going to show up in the audited figures, and the audited figures are usually available in June, July, August of the preceding year. So the budgeted amount may appear to be $18,400 at the beginning of the year, and at the end of the year, in the creation of the new budget, that figure may actually appear. But the audited figures, after they present all the accounts to the auditor, those are the figures that's where it would probably show up as not being withdrawn.
it's really not a cash basis. It's an accrual thing. And I now I understand. So anyway, I've asked them for an accounting, timesheets, how much each person is charging, each fee that goes into, I thought it was 357,000. Now we have 700,000.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Gary. Look forward to the response. Carol Joy Harris.
Yeah, I just want to say that it's not that we haven't asked. We ask over and over and over. We want an accounting. Every employee, when you tell us, whatever the item is that you're charging us, we want to see that accounted for line item by line item, and we get nothing.
Okay, I have one, may I ask one more question about the finances? It'll be quick. So I understand that the city has dipped into our reserve funds to pay for initially the first sewer pump station. Have they reimbursed us yet?
They did say at the meeting that we had last week that is in the plans. They're just figuring out how to do it. They will reimburse us the 1.3 million we spent on pump station number 2.
How about number one?
Number 1 is they are doing it now. It's not even in our budget.
No, I'm sorry. I understood they got like $5 million from the federal government, and they said with that money, they were going to use it for 2 pump stations here. And they came in and they withdrew some number, a fairly large number from our reserves to pay the contractors and the vendors.
On the first one, that was pump station number 2.
2. Okay, number 2. Did we get the money back yet?
It's coming. We asked that at the meeting, and they said it's coming.
So the answer is no, we haven't gotten the money
Okay,
back after a year and a half.
I don't think we have to be Ruth Ginsburg to figure if you've told the federal government you're going to use this money for these pump stations, and then you charge us, that's not some kind of problem there for them.
They didn't have the funds yet when pump station number 2 was happening.
They haven't gotten the funds from the federal government?
At that point, yes, they had
How long
not.
ago was that?
Well, I'll stand as a correction. I've been told, again, verbally, which sometimes changes, that they had already received the money. They had the money and they were they had the money 3 years ago. And they were allotting it to pump station 1 and 2. What Steve is saying is that we received in that meeting on the 30th, that they hadn't given back the money that was taken out of our reserves for pump station 2, but they were in the process of doing it. But there were some accounting difficulties that they were working their way through, and they hadn't given it back to us yet.
Sorry to laugh.
Okay, Gary, let me move on. John
Thank you.
John Hanson.
Yes, I just wanted to, clarify that just a little bit, and that, the grant, or it, I always get corrected when I call it a grant, but it's, maybe it was a gift, I don't know, but it was $3 million. And that $3 million was listed as income in our 22-23 budget that was approved by PAC, Helsing, and the city. Now, last month, when we got an update on the budget, it wasn't there anymore. So be interesting to know who authorized that $3 million to be removed from income from MVMCC, because it's no longer listed as income. Now, we are apparently getting reimbursed 1.1, 1.3 million here and there. That leaves about 700,000 that is not accounted for on that grant. That was in our budget and is no longer. So that's one of the many things that many pages, pages of issues that need clarification, that have accumulated over the months and over the years. Now,
I thank your patience, Laura. Let me go to you now, Laura.
I just wanted to comment as a victim of the Ponzi scheme PFI. I am aware that there is a class action suit pending against Umpqua Bank, because there were certain parties in that bank that knew it was a Ponzi scheme way before any of the investors knew. And apparently some information has been unearthed that allowed a class action suit to be a good idea. So I think we should be thinking about not having money in the Umpqua Bank, especially this 5 million you're talking about.
Well taken. Thank you. Carol Joy Harris.
I wanted to talk about the money that is a federal grant that went to, it was COVID money that went to, I mean, it was by the federal government that went to municipalities for infrastructure repair. And when that money was available, and Chris Blanc, the Department of Public Works manager, who's our liaison with the city, told us about it, he said, this grant, it's like it was written for you. We had already done the work on pump station number 2 and spent basically $1.5 million. So the grant was, and it's a grant, so it's not, we don't have to pay it back. It was retroactive to just beyond where we would still be eligible to get that 1.5 million back. Hooray. And Matt did the work of applying for that grant, helping Chris Blanc apply for it so that we would get the 3 million, 1.5 for pump station number 2, which was already done. So we'd get reimbursed for that. And then 1.5 for pump station number 1 that's being done right now. So this is my layman's understanding of that money. We haven't yet received the 1.5 that we already spent, but evidently it's in the works.
yeah, 1.5 is a huge rounding error, actually. In that, as I understand, one of the pump stations cost 1.3 and the other one was 1.1 million. So what I'm saying is that there's, there's a few $100,000 unaccounted for.
Well, again, excuse me, again, the amount of 1.1 or 1.3 primarily is the cost of the contractor doing the work. What remains to be looked at is that whether that grant should not in fact be able to cover the promotion of the contract by the city public works and the overseeing of that work by the city staff and the consulting work that needed to be enjoined to actually create the contract to do the work, and the consulting work that had to be done because the city didn't want to put both pump stations on the first contract. They wanted to wait for the second one. And then basically they had to double some of the work that they had done in putting out the bid. And also because of the delay, they had to re-engineer pump station 1. And later on, even they had to re-engineer the work for pump station 1 because the equipment that was available 3 years ago was no longer available for pump station 2. So there's a lot of increased expenses directly related to the pump station 1 and pump station 2 that conceivably should be included in that grant as it relates directly to it. John Hanson.
Yeah, Jay, on your addendum that you put together on FY 21-22, there's $83,000 in admin fees there. Do you think some of that was for doing? I mean, what else was there going on then? I don't know of anything else that was going on.
Well, that's the problem. I mean, we get these bills with a large figure or a figure, and we don't know what was done. And like you're saying, there really wasn't too much being done at the park. I mean, I'm sure there was work that was done by the Public Works Department, but nowhere reaching that figure.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, one more, Gary.
Okay, so I did a records request for the other stuff, the investments. Why doesn't the board make a record request for the information regarding the pump station grant and the fees that the city is charging and when they will reimburse us? It's a quick letter.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay.
I will tell you that we have numerously, both in writing and in person, requested this information directly from the city. And so far, we haven't gotten any response. So perhaps if we don't in the very near future get it, maybe we should follow your example of requesting a public information letter to them for this information. Bill Davis, is your hand raised?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
You know, I'm listening to you guys talk and I'm getting a headache from it because, you know, figures don't lie, but liars do a lot of figuring. There's so many moving parts going on right now that I really question the basic accounting going on within the city. They're asking for $400,000.
700.
100,000, right? Thank you. Over the past 5 years, I mean, what? I mean, that just it shocks me. And then we're talking about 2 pump stations that there's federal money on the table to pay for, and that's being manipulated around. And there's grants, and I don't know what's going on there. The basic accounting here is my question is, who is providing the oversight of the city's operation Number two, what kind of oversight are we providing for the citizens in this community? And I think that's in arrears. And if the city refuses to ask and to answer the questions we're putting forward to them, then we need to take it to the next level. There are levels we can take it to. Finally, I think we need to follow up on Gary's request. It's very simple and straightforward, but essence is the time is of the essence here. We need to get about this. This is embarrassing, shocking. 5 years in arrears, $700,000. I mean, there's something really smelly here in the cans. Thank you.
Carol Joy.
I would like to remind people that this is not the first time this has happened. We got a bill several years ago for $300,000 for years of back work by the city attorney. And we said, what? And they said, oh, sorry, we forgot to bill you every year as we went along, but here you owe us $300,000. And they just take it from our account, from the account that's ours, and put it in theirs. They have done this before. And I said to Chris Blunk, the minute I got on the 2x2, this is why people in the park don't trust the city. And he kind of went, yeah, I know. So there's history here. They've done this before because they can.
Okay, moving on. Any other comments before we move on?
Anila has her hand up.
Anila. Unmute, that's it.
I think everybody has touched on all the salient things, except if the city is indeed stumbling this much on handling our affairs in large, are all our bills still getting paid? Do we pay the bills? Does the management company pay? Does the city pay on our behalf? How is our credit rating as a unit and holding up to this?
As a general comment, and I'll ask Matt to correct me if I'm wrong, what happens is that we get invoices for work that has been accomplished here, ordered out under the current budget by Matt. Those invoices come in, are directed to the Helsing Group, who then manages the accounts that they should be coming from, and then those bills are sent to the city so that the city who controls all the funds, in other words, Helsing Group doesn't have any money, the city controls all the funds. They take the amount of that invoice and then they put it into an account that the Helsing Group can use to pay that particular bill.
That's the way it works, Matt?
Yes, I organize them all and direct the payments from each individual line item. We send it up to the CPA in Sacramento, who then enters them into the books and does a request for funds from the city. It then goes to bill pay in San Ramon and all the checks go out. We're current on everything. Insurance, other than the small policies like auto, the small policies come to me, but all the insurance goes directly to risk management at the city itself. So we're not a part of that. We have no access to the banks.
Okay, so let's move on. And I will point out that this meeting that we are going to be having with the city on the 26th, I believe.
19th.
19th. On the 19th is open to all residents, and it will be held at the clubhouse. And I would encourage you all to come and oversee what is actually transpiring and to make your comments known to the members of the city council that will be there and to the managers from the city staff, who presumably will be there along with perhaps the city manager. So moving on to, we have another comment from who? Carol Joy Harris.
Oh, what a surprise. I just want to ask, okay, this was not in the addendum, but I'm sure that all our residents are very interested in whether or not there is a planned rent increase. And if so, when? And I want to ask John and Jay, who, I'm sorry, Jay and Steve, who were there at that meeting with the city, what is the upshot there?
Steve?
The upshot is there is a planned rent increase of 5%.
When?
Not clear yet, but soon. It'll be before next January. I would guess September, October. I don't know. There's some rules that say they have to give us 90 days notice. At other times, the city has said, well, because we're a municipality, those rules don't apply to us. So I'm not sure when they have to give us notice or when that rent raise is going into effect.
My guess is it's with their, the city attorney has to get back to them on what the law is exactly for us.
Their interpretation of it, yeah.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, for the time that I've been here, all those rent increases for the fiscal year, which starts in July, have been put off until January, or 6 months. So there was a very good reason for why the rent increases were noticed 6 months in advance before the actual rent increase was started to be billed out, 6 months after it was approved by the city council. And it may very well reflect back on Proposition 218, which requires a 6-month notice to allow the affected individuals to make their comments known before it takes or becomes in effect. So we don't know what the city is going to do and what laws that they may or may not follow, but there is history that it's 6 months before it should take an effect. And the idea of it taking effect on July 1st seems to be withdrawn, and maybe now they're going back to a 90-day notice. We don't really know. So again, I would hope that the city actually reviews very carefully what the laws are governing this application of an increased fee for residents.
The budget is an ongoing process. Behind the scenes, we're working on it every day with Chris Blunk. The latest that Jay alluded to earlier in this discussion, one of the big increases has to do with insurance. Insurance for the club, the liability has been about, for the park, has been about $92,000 a year, and the insurance for Marval has been about $8,000 a year for the past 8-10 years, in that realm. And that's what was on the budget that we discussed with Chris Blunk last week. Just yesterday, Chris Blunk sent an email to us saying, no, it's not 92,000 for the park, it's 200,000. And it's not 8,000 for Marval, it's 65,000. And I'm figuring in my head, wait a minute, 65,000. Marval has maybe 50 pubs and 14 dinners, and they bring in what? Maybe $40,000 for the year, and we're going to pay $65,000 in insurance. So you can see what we're up against. There's some wild things going on, and we're day by day trying to nail them down and see where these ideas come from and trying to push them to land in a more desirable amount. So it's an ongoing thing, and it's very frustrating, and we're doing the best we can.
John Hanson.
Yes, yeah, it is ongoing and it's taking all of my time. I don't know about anybody else on the board, but you know, I'm not getting anything else done. Spending all my time doing this, working on this, not sleeping well because of this. And you know, it seems like the solution is so simple. Pay off the loan. We save the interest from that. Get our money out of Umpqua into treasury bills. We've made enough money there for all of our costs. We don't need a DSCR, and we'll be fine going forward. We can then do our calculations, do our planning without a bunch of artificial BS going on to inhibit what we're trying to do. I think the problem, quite frankly, is that you know, there's either too many cooks or not enough kitchens, one of the two. There's too many managers. You know, we hired a company to manage. We have an on-site manager. They're very good at what they do. And we hired them to do this work. The city is micromanaging us and screwing everything up in the process. So if you want to know what we're up against, that's it.
So just to add my comments to it, right now, treasury bills are yielding over 5%. So that means that the outstanding interest that we're paying on the bank loan is under 3%. So we do have a little breathing space when the interest rates are so high, if we are actually getting interest on our reserves, to contemplate this. And there's no doubt that if interest rates fall below 3%, then it would make absolute perfect sense to pay off the loan with the reserves, and therefore not have to pay out the 3% for interest on that money. The flip side of that is right now we should be getting over 5% for those reserve monies. So it would give us an additional 2% on that money that we could be using to manage our affairs more effectively within the park, rather than tying Matt's hands and preventing him from doing work that could prevent a major catastrophe. If Matt isn't able to do some of the work in preparation for a fire, what happens if there's a fire in another month and the place burns down because he wasn't able to do that necessary work because the budget as being proposed by the city is preventing him from spending any of that money? So, I mean, you are hearing lots of problems that we're having, and we're hoping to air these very succinctly at this coming meeting with the city, and just have our fingers crossed. But John's spending a lot of time, and certainly I'm spending a lot of time on this, and I'm not seeing any resolution. I'm just seeing smoke screens being thrown up and the game plan changing all the time. I mean, we have a budget. No, we don't have a budget because we forgot to charge you this amount of money. You know, you have insurance for running pub and for dinners, and suddenly, you know, you're paying $65,000 where you're paying $8,000. I mean, some of the stuff just doesn't make sense, but you know, we've got our fingers crossed, hopeful to get some resolution in this forthcoming meeting. Sorry to delay your comment, Joan. Go right ahead. You're on mute though, Joan. You have to unmute.
I really appreciate all that you are doing. This is a real shit show, pardon the expression. But I'm wondering, it seems neglectful on the city's part that they didn't have that $5 million invested in at least a 3, 4, 5% account. And if we figured out the interest we should have gotten the whole time approximately that money was in, we might put that against what they say we owe them to say you were neglectful. I mean, I am managing our money. And then expecting that you say, oops, all this is now owed something. There should be a quid pro quo there or something.
Thank you, John.
Some kind of crow.
John Irving.
Good evening again. I appreciate everything you guys do. I'm noticing on this meeting, there's 23 people here out of all the residents that live here. And I'm just curious with this new meeting you're coming up in June 19th, I said, and again, I'm willing to volunteer to make it some more outreach where somehow with the power of a little bit of people here, our message will get out better, even perhaps to the press if you needed to get some assistance here and help me with this. But even would an attorney be better to tell the city what's going on? The city has their tentacles in here, I think, right? And I think they're really trying, just in my naivety, they're really trying to extrapolate from us in their need to offset their problems. So just my 2 cents, but again, I'm more than happy to try to get, like, see at your meeting, if the city sees 23 people up there, maybe versus 200, perhaps they'd listen better. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but that's my thoughts this evening. Thank you. For all you do, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Put it in the tube.
What?
Notice in everybody's tube about the meeting.
That's what I said.
Sure.
Okay, let's keep it a little bit more orderly. John Hanson.
That's okay. Go ahead. Go on.
Carol Joy.
I would like Matt, if he would like to respond to that question about an attorney for us.
I've requested the use of an attorney for quite some time. Whenever there's any need for legal work, it's directed through the city attorneys, the firm that Veronica Nebb worked for before she went to Vallejo. So we don't have an attorney or a line item that they allow us to retain counsel. And initially, when I mentioned the meeting coming up on the 19th, I neglected to also mention that there is a special city council meeting scheduled for Marin Valley on July 12th as well. And that is a longer meeting, I believe.
That is a regular city council meeting. Sorry, may I?
No, go ahead, please.
The city council used to meet pre-COVID at our clubhouse quarterly. And that stopped with COVID when PAC stopped meeting in person as well. It is a city council meeting, and so they're going to have to bring their equipment here and everything. And of course, they're going to have to charge us for that. But that meeting, since it's a regular city council meeting, I'm pretty sure will start at 6 p.m.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'd like to move on. The 2x2 meeting, Carol Joy Harris and Steve Plosher. I think you probably have a lot on your agenda for this upcoming meeting. When is it going to take place?
Okay, I wanted to say that our scheduled 2x2 meetings are quarterly, and we had a meeting scheduled for June 19th. That is the day that we are going to have the meeting at the clubhouse with the city. And so I emailed Chris Blunk and his assistant and said, oh, So when are we rescheduling our 2x2 meeting? Oh, no, they said, we're not going to have that one, and we won't have a 2x2 meeting until September. So they just arbitrarily canceled our 2x2 meeting, and therefore we won't have one until September. And yes, we will have lots to talk about.
Okay. The report for project planning, John Hanson and Jay Shelfer. I mean, I'll just start off by saying all of our project plannings are, because of the budgetary implications, put on hold. And we are probably going to be asked to work with the city at the June 19th meeting to figure out a scaled down version of their capital expenditures. They initially were looking for $70 million accumulated to accomplish the infrastructure problems that they were foreseeing that needed to be done for the next 30 years. And they have scaled back down that requirement. And now they're looking at projects that probably will be from 2 to 7 years that needed to be completed. So we're going to look forward to those conversations about what capital projects have to be accomplished during that period of time. And I might add that we're still very interested and concerned with getting the roof replaced for the clubhouse for a number of reasons. One, it's leaking. Two, it's a fire hazard. And three, we aren't able to heat the water for the pool because there's no solar heating. So that incrementally is costing, again, our budget for the gas that we're using to heat it up. So that is still actually on the table. The project for doing the roof, which was on this year's budget, which the city did not have time to officiate over, is now being thrown back on the park. And Matt has been asked to come up with 3 bids for that, and they've still are indicating that they will try to get that work done in the very near future. So be that as it may, that's where it stands. John, do you have any comments?
Well, not too much really, except that, yeah, the thing with projects, we know what we need to do pretty much. It's the problem is figuring out when we need to do it and how we're going to do it and by whom. And you know, then there's paying for it is the other issue. And right now, the only way the city is considering paying for our projects coming up is through our reserve fund. And what I would like to put out with regarding to our reserve fund is that money that we save right now in 6 or 7 years it's going to be worth far less than what it is right now. So I feel that we would be much better off to not save the money, but to spend it as we need to right now. If a project comes along, then we can look at, okay, is there a reserve to cover part of that? Is there a loan that we can take to cover part of that? Maybe there's a grant or some other soft money that might be able to take part of that too. Those are things we don't know of right now. We just don't know. So putting a budget out for longer than really about 5 years is kind of ridiculous. I would say what I would propose is a 5-year budget that we review and advance 1 year every year. So we have a 5-year budget that marches along. And then we can figure out, we can see far enough in advance on projects then of what they are, what the timing is like, and what the costs are going to be, and then plan accordingly at the time. So, it's not a one and done, do it and forget it sort of thing that the city wants to do. Okay, raise the rents 10% or 20%, whatever they're talking about, so that we can raise $70 million in 20 years. Or that's stupid. That is just ridiculous, a totally ridiculous solution. And I know it's so bad because I can understand that. So, so anyway, that would be my input into projects and how to do projects going forward.
Thank you, John. Just one final comment. We hear this term soft money. I mean, the state and the federal government have been very gracious in the sense to support low and moderate income people with grants and with the supposedly soft money that doesn't have to be replaced. Michelle Rodriguez has forwarded on any number of these on to myself, and I have in turn forwarded them on to the city manager, as there are people in the city that work with applying for these grants. What we've been told is that the city is too busy to look into these.
Yeah, so their solution is just throw money at it, our money.
Well, yeah,
Rather
raise
than-
rents.
Yeah.
And you got $5 million in reserves, we hope. Any comments, questions? Moving on, Invest report and Firewise.
Laura.
Laura? Okay, Laura, sorry, didn't see it.
You're muted. You're muted.
You're muted, Laura.
You're muted.
The meetings, what time are they happening? We've got the dates, but we don't have the time. The one on the 19th, what time is that meeting? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think it starts at 2, but we'll certainly, as been suggested, we are going to have a flyer that'll be in everybody's tube.
Okay.
Indicates that.
But the one on the 12th of July, also, what time that one is? What time is that one?
Yeah, well, Carol Joy just said it was 6 o'clock, but we'll be able to update you on that.
All right, great, thank you.
Okay, going on to Invest, John Hanson.
Okay, well, yeah, there are things going on with Invest, and coming up on the 24th of this month, that's Saturday, 24th, from where is that? From 11 o'clock until 1 o'clock is an Invest event at the clubhouse, and it's a call for volunteers. So this is for all the volunteers, all the people that are interested in just knowing what Invest is doing, and maybe want to volunteer some time into Invest. So there would be a complete description of what Invest does. It's different from what it was in the past. We've had some time during COVID to to sort of rewrite things and reevaluate and sort of reinvent Invest. So at any rate, on the 24th, please come and find out what Invest is doing for you these days. And by the way, there will be food served.
Thank you, John. Any comments from the board or from residents? Seeing none, move on to John Feld for the HOL report.
Well, thank you, Jay. First of all, HOL has a very efficient tubing system. We can get your tubes delivered pretty much the same day that you bring them to us.
Oh, thank you.
But if John Ewing wants to be involved, that's wonderful. And we always look for more volunteers. So Invest is really recovering from our play, which we put on, which was a great success.
HOL. Mm-hmm.
And we want to thank everybody who came and who participated. And we all think it was doable and repeatable, but the people involved want to take a rest right now, so we haven't planned anything future. But we are planning certain things for the summer. As you know, our meeting is tomorrow, and we invite everybody to attend. It's in the fireside room at 6 o'clock. But we're planning an ice cream social. We're planning a grandparents' day with grandkids invited. And we've got a lot of events that we're going to discuss tomorrow at our meeting. But basically, we're resting on our laurels for the rest of this month just to recover from the play, we also had a really good event with Pauline Hawkins. We wanted to thank her for everything she's done for our environment. And I think 77 people turned up for that, which was a magnificent showing. And everybody was very thankful and loved the event. And Pauline did too. And we want to thank her again and again for her magnificent work. And I think that's it.
Thank you, John. Any questions? Seeing none, moving on to Carolyn Corey for Marvell.
So Carolyn sent me a Marvell update of activities in the next month. So am I supposed to read those off during this meeting?
Sure.
Okay, so June 17th, there's the brunch under the ragtop with mimosas and many brunch favorites, along with the music of Lee Waterman Trio. Reservation deadline is June 14th. July 4th celebration for 4th of July with pulled pork sandwiches, along with music by our own Brenda Foster. Reservation deadline is July 1st. July 21st is pasta pub night. See July Echo for details. That's it.
Thank you, Joan. And report on the rules and regulations, Carol Joy Harris.
Oh, thank you. I added that to the agenda just so it doesn't fall off our radar. And I wanted to report that as of this time, it is still on Chris Blunk's desk. So we've been waiting on this iteration for 3 years now. And I think something like 7 years for our rules and regulations to be updated, but you know, it's the city, so.
That's what it is. Okay, thank you, Carol Joy. Any comments from anyone? Seeing none. Old business. Discussion concerning MVMCC's long-term sustainability. Carol Joy Harris.
Okay, that is on the agenda because it was new business last month. So this month it goes to old business. And that was basically to tell people about the workshop that is coming up. It's called a workshop with the city on the 19th. So, and then also if there is any other discussion about that tonight, but we've already covered it, I think.
Right. Good. Okay. New business. We were going to talk about John's issue about a vote of no confidence on the city's management to date of Marin Valley Mobile Country Club.
Right. I added that to the agenda as discuss vote of non-confidence in city management regarding MVMCC. No action needed. In other words, we can't vote on it.
Right. So, John, would you care to go back over and reiterate what are your issues?
Well, I don't have time to go through all the issues. We've talked about a few of them today, but I have many more, and I'm sure that if I were to collect issues from other members of the community, that would probably come up with a longer list as well. But basically, there are so many major problems that have been created by the city by mismanagement, by their micromanagement of our management system, which is perfectly adequate by itself. That because of all that has been going on for years, and I think it's time that we call attention to it specifically with a vote of no confidence to the city's ability to manage Marin Valley. We only need one level of management. And then one level of oversight on top of that would be fine, but leave it as oversight, not micromanagement. What we do not have in our string of administration is leadership. Now, management is the function of management is to tell you what your limits are of what you can do, what you can spend, what you can build, how far from the fence, and so forth. This is what management does. Leadership, on the other hand, tells you what your possibilities are and assists you with your possibilities. We don't have anybody like that. And so if we don't have anybody like that, then maybe we need to take over that function and become our own leaders. If the city wants to own us as as they put it, then, that's okay. But I think we need to rework the entire relationship, because what is happening right now does not work at all. So that's where I am. What I would like to do is to put that list of issues together and as the rationale for a vote of non-confidence presented at the next board meeting or earlier if you feel it's appropriate or necessary.
John, the idea of creating that list and bringing it forward to the next board meeting, I think is a good one in the sense that we are going to have an opportunity at the 19th to really open the ball game, so to speak, on a lot of these issues, and we'll see how the city's approach to resolving the issues and the problems and the way forward works its way out at this June 19th meeting. And then if we are not satisfied with that, we could enumerate those at your next or at our next meeting, which is going to be in July, and take a vote. So I think that's a good plan. And any other comments? Carol Joy.
Well, a statement and a question. My statement is the city does own us. It's not like they so-called own us. No, they own us.
Let's not go there. We don't need that
Well,
discussion right now.
that's a fact. You said, well, they say they own us. No, they own us. That's just a fact. And then my second thing is a question, and that is of you, John. What do you hope to accomplish by this?
What I hope to accomplish is to get the word across in a simple statement that we're very dissatisfied with the way the city is handling Marin Valley. Very dissatisfied. There's really nothing else. There's nothing legally binding about it. It's simply a statement. A statement that we don't have confidence in your management of Marin Valley. That's all. Simple thing.
Steve, you had your hand up.
I was actually thinking the same two questions that Carol Joy had for you. And I'm not sure you answered it. You answered your intention, but what do you hope to accomplish? How would you like them to respond? knowing who they are and what they do.
Well, okay, this is what I would love to see is that, okay, that the city council, I do have faith in the city council. I think they're all good people, but I don't think they know what's going on under their own roof. I don't think they understand what management is doing. The city manager and their staff. I don't think they understand what they're doing and what they're not doing and how they're doing it and not doing it. So I think if we bring everything out, and here's this, it'll be a pretty overwhelming list that the city council can look at that. And they say, well, Joe's aware of some of this, but I had no idea all this was going on. That's what I would expect to see. And if we don't see that, then we can take another step. Does that answer?
Yeah, thank you.
Michelle and Todd, I see your hand up.
Hi, I guess I'm just concerned about an outcome or a result or what alternative we see. I'm hearing kind of the direction going towards the ownership by the residents. And I think that there are benefits to city ownership. And I think that the 19th would be too early and unflushed out for us to come. And I even think July, an expectation of a vote might be too soon. I do think a conversation about pros and cons or concerns we might have, because I'm almost hearing two different things. A vote of no confidence over leadership, I think, is really around our concern that staff isn't something. And I don't know what that is. And maybe when we look at the pros and cons list or this list of concerns about mismanagement, we might be able to reframe this in a way that we can articulate to our city council that we'd like some better attention at certain things. I do think that there is a staffing issue. But I think that's about as far as I'm comfortable talking about it here. But I'm a little concerned about what we really are saying here. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I mean, just my comment off the top is basically there's a lot of issues hidden and developing over the time that I've been here, 10 years. And I think it's not a bad idea to get these issues on the table to really make sure that there's enough agreement that things aren't really going in the direction that that they should be going in order to manage and maintain a facility as we have here, a community as we have here for low and moderate income people, and for those people who can afford better accommodations, which are here as well. But I mean, basically, we've got to really air all these things out and find a better way. And I think this discussion has been put off for a long time because we didn't want to poke the bear. But we can see from what we've spoken about today that there are a lot of issues that are really haven't been answered and are problematic for the continuation of this community. And we feel that, or John feels from his comments, that these need to be aired out, fleshed out, and talked about so that if any action should be taken, we can do it. And also that these issues are put on the table so city council people who read the minutes and listen into these board meetings can see what our concerns are and see if they can meet some of our expectations. And with that, I'd like to pass it to Anila Manning for her comment.
Jay,
Yes.
I got a little bit more to add there, really, and that is that all of our grievances, all of our issues, there's really nothing new there. Well, there is something new. There are a few things that are new, but many of them go way back for years, 10, 12 years, some even longer. And we've addressed those in the past, and we have not been satisfied in addressing those. We've asked questions. Probably the most blatant example is the rules and regulations. That, you know, it came, we looked at it, we said, yeah, here it is, cool. Go back, well, then it sits back on somebody's desk there again for how many years? I don't know. That's what's been happening, is the old problems have not found solutions, so that new problems come along, and we don't get solutions to those either. So it just keeps building, and it's gotten to the point now that it's untenable. I'm not willing to let it go on any further without putting somebody's feet to the fire. Somebody needs to needs to attend to these issues, answer these questions. Because, you know, any more problems, we just don't need any more. There's way too many right now. Too many things that are unresolved and unanswered.
Thank you. Anila Manning.
So we've made a great case in this whole meeting for this didn't work, and this didn't work. I think it's important going forward that we be collaborative with the city, that we be non-confrontative or confrontative or whatever we end up doing, but that we work with the city. And I don't think it's really sensible to think that they will have all the answers. I think we need to model a way of, okay, here's a few ways we can do it. If we, you know, allowing a whole bunch of poor overworked people in City Hall who have a whole city to manage, solve our problems, may not be the wisest thing. We need to give them solutions and alternatives.
That's what leaders do. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yep.
Bill Davis.
Thank you. You know, let's just reverse the situation. Pretend you're sitting on the city council and you listen to these problems brought up to you, A, B, C, and D. I mean, a fifth grader could figure this out. So no confidence in the management of the city. We're doing a good job in here. We've got excellent management, beautiful oversight on a day-to-day basis. It works quite well. But coming up and presenting a bunch of problems to the city, yeah, there's merit in it. But more importantly, I think it's critical that you present solutions to the problems. Because if they're obvious and a fifth grader can figure it out, A, B, C, and D, you're a city council. I'm sitting there as a city council member. You're presenting solutions to me. I can pick one of the four and say to the city manager, this is what we'd like, or they could put it on an agenda, or they could do it any way they want to do it. But it would move it forward if we had solutions to problems presented with the problems. Thank you.
John Hanson.
Yes, Bill, yeah, I agree with that totally. I totally agree with you. And I think that would be a good thing with what I'm suggesting to do, is to go ahead and put solutions in there. The thing is, most of those solutions are nothing new. I have presented solutions to city staff many times in the past, and I either get a blank stare or I get a response like, we own you, so we'll do what we want. And
You
that's
know,
from
John,
staff.
I agree with you on that, but remember, you've got new people sitting down the city council who direct what needs to be done. Now is the time to present it to them, to direct their manager, et cetera, and it works downhill from there.
Exactly.
Ellen Jane.
Thank you. Well, it feels like we are treated as the poor stepchildren by the city. They got bigger problems, just like when I bring up about the damn thermostat. It's like a mosquito. There's bigger problems in our community. But you know, we're just this little piece, and the city is failing. I mean, the budget of the city, the police, the police chief leaves in less than 11 months, and we have to pay her off severance, whatever, 59,000, and she'll be getting 159,000 a year for the rest of her life, not counting benefits and increases. And this is the things that the city is dealing with. They can't even hold on to a police chief, and other things, just the tax base, and then the housing that we're required to build, and not fulfilling Sacramento's dictates about that kind of planning to their satisfaction with Wiener's whole thing. And it's not housing for the poor and the disabled, or it's not housing like that. It's like smaller homes. For, well, whatever. I'm sidetracked very easily, but that's basically, they got bigger stuff on their mind, and they just shuffle us off to the corner. And I agree with you, John, that we do have to make some noise. And I can't, it's horrible that you're losing sleep, because if we lost you, if you gave up on us, then we're really doomed. But all of you working on this, I had no idea the whole impact of all of this, what how we're being treated, and get that $5 million out, and charge it against what they owe us, what we would have made in interest. And we do need an attorney, maybe there's somebody internally, but that's all for now. Thank you very much.
Any other comments? Anyone want to be heard?
Is Bill Davis's hand up still?
He's muted.
Thank you. I'll take it down. I don't know how to take it down.
I think it took you a while to figure out how to get it up there.
All right, so determination of the next PAC board meeting is Monday, July 3rd at 6 p.m. Everyone's ready for attendance at that time? We'll have
Yeah,
lots of-
just let people know it is Monday and not Tuesday. Tuesday is the 4th, so this would be the day before. It's on Monday. I don't think there's anything else that day, so.
Well,
Well,
thank
thank you very much, board, for doing the work that you do. It's, you don't get enough recognition and appreciation, but thank you very much.
Thank you for what you do, Bill.
Absolutely.
All right. Good night, one and all.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank
Good night.
you.